Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name's Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Man, we've already got a herd in here in the chat, and you guys are probably wondering, what in the heck are you doing going live so early? My wife's probably asking the same question, but we're going to try to start doing a few more morning shows for you guys. You know, I'm kind of a morning person anyway. Get up, grab a cup of coffee, go through some of the latest writing from Paul Brettel and some of your favorite writers there in Green Bay, and just kind of see what's going on for the day as far as the Green Bay Packers. So that's what we're doing here. Just going to kind of hang out a little bit. We've also got a special guest here too, actually out running some errands this morning. Looky here. What's up, Tim?
What's up? What's up, Clayton?
Hold on,
let me get out of the car. I had to stop by Heaven today.
Oh, look at this.
Good morning, Lambeau.
I love it, dude.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Right, let me get back in the car. It's cold.
I'm trying to think of what entrance that is right there. Are you on the Titletown side?
Yeah, exactly. Ridge Road. I'm on the west side of the stadium, kind of by the Bell and Health Gate.
Gotcha. Yeah, that right there, that entrance is what Mandy refers to as our entrance, because we always get the suite tickets, right? You go right in those doors, gang. When you get through tailgate and walk straight in, they check your ticket. You go right up the elevator to the top level, and you're in a box. It's absolutely awesome, man. And I'll tell you, it's a little bit pricey, but it's so worth it, Tim. To be especially on the cold games. Oh, it's great, man.
Yeah, I got to do that. One of these years, I'm going to do that for sure.
We'll make that happen for sure, man. But I appreciate you hopping on here, dude. You going to hang out for a little bit?
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Cool. Like I said, to make yourself comfortable, if you want to kill the camera, whatever point, that's totally cool with me. But let's go through the chat real quick, see who's hanging out in here, man. We got a herd. Like I said, we got Zane in here. Zane was in here 30 minutes early. My man, early bird gets the worm. Let's see. We got Jarrell. We got Drew. We got Carly Ray. Whole bunch of people in here. This is awesome, dude. Nick in the house. Nick McSwain. Who else? Emilio. Look at Emilio over here. You better get to work, dude.
Emilio.
Let's see. Yeah, I should have hit it. Dilo 6 in the house too. Good morning, man. Appreciate you swinging through. So Jeffrey here. Good morning, fam. What's up, Jeff? Let's do this, man. Let's just kind of talk. You know, one of the ways I like to start my day is just kind of go through and get an update of the standings at least once a week. Kind of say, okay, what do the standings look like? What's the rest of the schedule look like? Kind of lay out the potential for, how the season's going to wrap up, right? So let's kind of do that. Let's look at the standings real quick. I think I've got a snapshot here, if I remember correctly. Maybe I don't. I may not have saved it. But I was looking at the standings there earlier, and the Packers, they've got a road to hoe. There's no doubt about that, man. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I think I've got it right here, I believe. Let's see if this is it. But the Vikings, man, that's what sucks is the Vikings have now they've now slid into that number 7 spot. I don't know what I've done with that standings. This thing is off to a great start already, gang. Let's see. Let's see what this one is right here. Actually, it was a screenshot. That's why. Okay, cool. Let me go back down. So, yeah, Tim, as far as the standings, dude, you heard Paul last night. He was talking about how important this Pittsburgh game is, right? And listen, if they come out and bomb out, man, good luck, right? Because it's going to be a pretty tough road to hoe down this next 4-game stretch. And, the Steelers, I know a lot of people are looking at the Steelers as, there's no way you can win that game, right? But when you look at it, man, they're pretty weak on offense, which we'll talk about a little later in this show. But I don't know, man. What do you think as far as the Packers having an opportunity to make the playoffs? They're going to have to go on a little bit of a run here, right?
And it started last week. We had to get that win at home. And now it's important to get the win on the road to really show themselves and show us all, who this team really is. I think if we go into Pittsburgh and squeak out a win, it probably won't be pretty. It's probably not going to be a high scoring game. But if we can come out there with the dub heading back home against the Chargers for throwback day, and we can grab a win there at home, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking with gas, and give us a chance to I'll tell you, man, I've said this before. We get this win against Pittsburgh, come home and take care of home against the Chargers. I wouldn't want to be Detroit facing us on Thanksgiving. I don't care how good they think they are. I mean, we would be super hot. So I think this is huge for momentum, man, getting a big win on the road against the Steelers.
Yeah, and the Lions have showed a few weaknesses, right? That's something that I don't think they're any stretch of the imagination the best team in the league. Some people believe that. Most Lions fans believe that. I think they're built pretty strong, and they're built for the future. There's no doubt about that when you talk about the age and just how they've built that foundation. But here is the NFC standings, okay, by conference. All right, so this is kind of how the playoffs would lay out. You got the Eagles as the number 1 seed at 8-1. You get the Lions number 2 seed at 6-2. You got the Niners at 5-3. The Saints at 5-4. The Seahawks at 5-3. The Cowboys at 5-3. The Vikings at 5-4. The Commanders at 4-5, Falcons at 4-5, Buccaneers at 3-5, and then of course us at 3-5, and the Rams right behind us at 3-6. So, with the way that lays out, we actually play the Bucs coming up, I believe, don't we, Tim? Let me look at the schedule here. Am I thinking? Yeah, we got Tampa Bay December 17th. So keep that one in mind, right?
But absolutely.
Standings. So you got a chance to leapfrog them with a head-to-head matchup, right? So if you win this week, let's say you win this week, right? You somehow, some way in Pittsburgh pull out a win. And let's say the Falcons lose, let's say the Commanders lose, right? You're now going to be right there behind the Vikings. You take care of the Bucs when you play them. You kind of knock them out of contention, and now it's going to come down to how well are the Vikings going to play moving forward. And I'll tell you, some people scoffed at them signing Joshua Dobbs, Tim, but man, what a great move, because he went to Tennessee just right down the road from us here. Just a stone's throw away from where Emilio lives. And they called him Astro Dobbs, right? Because he's he's literally studied to be an astronaut. He's one of the most brilliant minds probably in all of the NFL from an intellectual standpoint, right? I know you got a dumb redneck telling you how smart someone else is, probably losing credibility right off the bat. But he is one of those guys. He plays smart. He can play football, and there's a reason that teams have went after him this year, and the Vikings traded for him. But I think it's going to kind of come down to, can we go on a run? First and foremost, you got to take care of business, right? And the goal is to get to 10 wins, right? The old saying, win 10 and you're in. Sometimes it's less than that, but if you focus on 10, you can get in. But that'd be pretty cool to come later in the year, Tim, as we look at the schedule again. And, we're going to play the Vikings again in week 17 at Minnesota. How cool would it be that there's a playoff implications on the line for that if we could somehow put a run together?
That's what I'm saying. Give yourself a chance to play meaningful football in December. That's really been my focus. We talk about roster eval, QB1 eval, things that we need to accomplish this year. That's all fine. That's going to happen either way. In the meantime, I'd love to compete and at least be relevant. So I think this team is going to find their stride. I really do. I'm impressed with how they played against the Rams. And I think we need to see more of the same, and we need to see continued improvement on the road in Pittsburgh. And like I said, I hope Anders Carlson is stretching that leg, man. We may need it. It may be one of those type of games.
I would love to see him get the opportunity with the game on the line, maybe in a little bit hostile situation. It could be Pittsburgh, right, with that win on the open end of the stadium. Pat McAfee talks about it all the time, how it's an absolute nightmare, right? Be cool to be faced with a little bit of adversity like that, game on the line, and just hammer one home from 50 plus, right? And I think we would all agree he's had a good year. He missed that. He pulled that one last Sunday in the rain, but I think we've got us a good kicker there, man. I'm excited to see what he does moving forward for sure. Nick McSwain in the chat said, yes, more morning shows. Glad you enjoy it, man, for sure. Drew says, nobody will complain about more content. That's kind of the goal, Drew. We just want to pump some more content out there to you guys and see what sticks, right? This may not stick. One way you can ensure that it would stick is, like I said, just giving feedback and as long as the numbers are there, right? Because we definitely don't want to feel like we're dragging people along and forcing content, right? So, but like I said, I'm a morning person, so I'm really all about it for sure. I like this right here, Tim. Nick McSwain said, "Is Tim going to harass the players?"
If by giving words of encouragement, you mean harass the players, yes, I will be doing that.
And then Drew says, wait, wasn't he supposed to be in a Steelers uniform? I thought that was the deal too, Tim. What happened, man? Couldn't.
The funny thing is, Clayton, I got up this morning, I got dressed. I was getting dressed, and I looked in my closet, and I didn't find any Steelers gear. There's no Pittsburgh Steelers gear in there at all. So I couldn't, even if I wanted to.
I love it, dude. I was actually on a pod yesterday with Brady from Packer Nation, and his co-host Aaron is actually a Steelers fan. She does a great job covering the Packers, though. But she had a Steelers shirt on during the pod. I was like, boy, they're trying to get me to fight on here right off the bat. Look at this. But I kind of grew up a closet Steelers fan because of my brother. like I was telling them, he's quite a bit older than me. He's more of a father figure to me than really a brother. And he grew up in the 70s, so he grew up during that dynasty with the Steelers. So when I was growing up in the 90s, they went on that run there with Cowher, and he got me liking the Steelers quite a bit. I never was a big pro football fan until I, like I said, discovered the Packers back in 03. But Carly Ray says, let's get a PTA posse box at Lambeau. Hey, I've got some pretty good connections. Like I said, it's pricey, but we could make just about anything happen. I like to sit in the corner of the end zone and facing the upper level, right, where they've done the expansion, facing the quote-unquote open end, I guess you could say. And we could do that. We always get front row seats where it's more comfortable. You've got TVs mounted in front of you so you can see the replay and all that good stuff. It was perfect. If you don't believe me, ask Jacob, man. We walked in there and he went, what in the world is this? It's like a different world up there. It's really, really cool. And, I went to the restroom real quick. We were going to go grab some concessions. I come out. Mandy was like, guess who just walked by? Oh, it was Mark Murphy. And I literally felt, I was telling Tim this the other day, I felt like Michael on The Office. Remember when he thought he seen Tina Fey in Times Square? And it wasn't her, right? He creeped her out. And then who was it? Conan O'Brien ended up walking by and he missed him.
He didn't even recognize him, yeah.
Mandy's just out there hanging out with him and everything. I'm like an idiot in there washing my hands. And so anyway, it's a really cool experience, though. We need to try to make that happen. I'd be all about that for sure. Let's see here, Tim. We got a super chat, boy. Let me get the schedule off real quick. All right. We got George Klein with the super chat. 9-8, 10-7 would be phenomenal, making the playoffs or not. That's a great point, George. I definitely agree with that. I'm still of the opinion too that if you win more than 6 games, that's a good year. Aaron Rodgers won 6 games his first year in the league, right? And I know I try not to make everything about Jordan Love. I don't think that if we lose, it's Jordan Love's fault. I don't think if we win, it's all about Jordan, right? He doesn't have to be MVP caliber. Not that Aaron was his first year starting. But the one thing you do need to put into perspective when you talk about Aaron and Jordan's situation, I mean, look at all the receivers that Aaron had when he took over as starter, Tim. I mean, you had Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson. I believe you had Jordy. Yeah, you definitely had Jordy Nelson. Yeah, Jordy Nelson. You had James Jones. Wasn't like a year or two later, if not that year, they drafted Jermichael Finley. It might have actually been that year too. But he had a lot better targets, I think we would agree. Or am I off base there, Tim?
No, not at all. I got a buddy that's a huge Brett Favre fan, and he always talks about that. Well, that was Brett's team. He came in, he had Brett's team. And you know what? It's a pretty valid argument. I mean, there were some pieces in place already, which shows what, Ted Thompson had in mind, draft and develop, build the roster, draft this quarterback. Brett couldn't make up his mind. We went back and forth plenty of times. It was time to make the decision. And the rest is history. So yeah, I mean, I was in the camp of going into this season that, they could win nine games. Can you finish 9-8 instead of 8-9? And that would be an improvement on last year. So I think, anything this team can do to trend in the right direction is going to make us feel better as we close out the second half of the season. But it all starts this weekend, man, in Pittsburgh. We're really going to see what this Packers team is made of. This is going to probably be arguably their biggest challenge of the season so far, other than obviously the Detroit debacle. But I think this is certainly the toughest game on the schedule until Kansas City rolls into town. So hopefully we can get the dub.
Yeah, for sure. When you look at how Aaron played his first year starting, it's a little bit different. I don't want to start splitting hairs or anything, but you could see Aaron's arm talent. Like, I mean, he threw some throws that was like, whoa. I don't feel like we've seen that with Jordan yet. However, I don't have to have the whoa throws, right? The wow throws, as some people like to call them. I just need a quarterback that's going to play efficient, play on time, right? Be accurate with the football. Now, we know he struggled a little bit with that accuracy. Last week was a big building block, I believe. But, anything more than 6 wins, I'm really happy with. Like I said, Aaron, with all those targets, with all those great receivers, only won 6 games his first year as a starter. So with that being said, 6 wins would be great. Also, if you lose, if you win, let's say you win 4 games, I can't roll out Coach LaFleur being fired. I can't. What am I trying to say? I can't criticize people for wanting a new coaching staff if you only win 4 games. I mean, that's a pretty bad look, right? Even with all the injuries and everything. So I'm hoping for LaFleur's sake, at least 6 wins. The closer you get to 9, like George said, whether you make the playoffs or not, I do think that's a big step in the right direction. And it's kind of like what Eden just said in here in the chat. Said Rodgers took his team with him. It's very true. There's a lot of people that that went out the door. And it is funny to kind of watch people. Not that you're doing this, Eden. I know you're not, but there's many people that following the whole thing, watching the whole thing unfold on Twitter. There were people, oh, hey, yeah, Rodgers, this is going to be hilarious, watching the Jets fall on their face, taking those players, this and that. And I don't think they realize just how much those players contributed to this team. Now, with a younger team, obviously the upside's a lot higher, and really excited to see what they can do with the upside for sure. Let's see what else we got here. This is pretty cool. We've got, and again, George, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. We appreciate it. Carly Ray in the chat says Trey Watson, Christian's brother, said that number 9 was a Steelers fan growing up. That's pretty wild. I didn't know that, but since you brought it up, why don't we do this? So we actually had Christian Watson in the locker room yesterday. Let's see what number 9 had to say about maybe his performance against the Rams and anything moving forward.
It's key to using the momentum from last week and moving that to this one.
I mean, we just got to obviously, just got to keep it going. You got to be able to, build and grow and still be able to learn from games like that. Obviously there were still things that we could have done better. So, I mean, if we just take the energy and everything that we had going last week and, we take another step forward this weekend, then, we'll be on the right track and, closer to be able to, get that dub. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the number one thing I can say for me and what I've done, like last year when I was having success is, just keep it going, keep growing.
When you had that losing streak last year, you got that one and it really got the ball rolling. You guys have said that you needed that. How key is it to keep it rolling?
I mean, at this point, where we're at in this season, I think it's huge for us to keep it going. I think we got to find a way to just try to go 1-0, every single week for the rest of the season. I mean, we got to do everything that we can to try to win, the game that we have this week. We just got to do whatever we can. We got to find a way.
How's the body?
That's kind of the theme, Tim. Is whatever you got to do, man. Whatever it takes, right, to get the job done.
I like that mentality. It almost echoes what Carrington Valentine was saying in the locker room the other day. We had that clip last night from Emilio, and it's like, you have to have a short memory. You have to have a short memory when it comes to the successes in the NFL, because you don't want to get too big-headed, especially a young team. And you want to have a short memory when you're making mistakes so you don't get in that negative mindset and start thinking like a loser. So to hear Scoot say what he said tells me that, this locker room is not in as much trouble as we maybe thought it was a couple of weeks ago. Seems like these guys got their heads on straight and, 1-0 every week. That's what I want to hear from my players, because that's all you can control. You can't – I mean, we looked at the standings now. We see Atlanta a couple clicks above us. Yeah, it would have been nice to get that win against the Falcons, but we didn't. So we got to forget about that. We got to go get the win this weekend against the Steelers. So I love what Scoot said there, man. Gives us a good insight into the psyche of the guys in the locker room.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man, no doubt. Sam in the chat says heading to Pittsburgh, hoping to come home with that W. I've got a good friend. His name's Worth. He's a big Steelers fan. He was actually trying to get me to go to this game too, but with the pod and everything, I want to keep this thing rolling. We got some good momentum. But he said that's just he looks at that place, like Lambeau, right? Being a lifelong Steelers fan, and everybody I've heard, it's just an amazing place to watch a ball game. So safe travels up there, buddy. Enjoy the game for sure. Drew in the chat says, don't you think LaFleur has earned more time with his 13-win seasons, though?
No.
Tim was quick.
short memory, man. It ain't about what you did 3 years ago.
Yeah, and it ain't about what you did with a back-to-back MVP quarterback too. Who, by the way, I think we would all agree now it wasn't LaFleur's offense, right? It was Rodgers having, I would say it was probably the way I look at that whole thing and how it unfolded. 2019, you've seen the offense take a step back, right? Because he started to implement what he wanted to do. You guys remember they butted heads when he first came in, right? Talking about changing the play at the line. Aaron says, hey, I got all this experience. I have a hard time believing you just want me to cut that off, right? And it was almost like he was like, all right, this is what you want. There was a little bit of melding there in 2019. 2020, you've seen a whole bunch of McCarthy's offense in 2020. You could see the wide splits. You could also see a ton of motion that LaFleur implemented too, right? That was the emergence of duo in this offense as well. So you have, with duo too, the Jets still run a bunch of duo. So duo is something that Nathaniel Hackett was big on. The reason he got big on that too was playing, coaching with Aaron Rodgers. So with that being said, if you go back and look at how everything unfolded, 2019 offense struggled a bit. 2020, you had this hybrid version of the offense, MVP performance, 13-win season, right? Along with 2019 too, but I think we'd all agree 2019 you had that 2019 you had that awesome defense too. We came out with Mike Pettin and had a great defense, great pass rush. So 2020 MVP, right? 2021, you're still seeing the same type of offense. That's when the RPO really took off, right? Him and Devontae Adams, exactly what Greg Cosell talks about: elimination, isolation, isolating Tay, even sometimes in double coverage, but having choice routes applied. You can beat the double coverage. You can beat the bracket with Tay just looking at the technique, having all those smarts, which I still can't believe we let him go, and reading the DB's posture. Everything that you heard Peyton and Eli talking about on the Manning cast the other night, are they on the toes of the feet? Are they on the balls of the feet? Are they on their heels? All that stuff matters from a quarterback and a receiver standpoint. And then, of course, you let Tay go, right? 2021 or 2022, if you guys will notice, last year, people don't realize this. I think they realize it. They don't want to recognize it. It was, what happened to all the motion? What happened to all the motion? The motion actually increased in 2022 from 2021. The only reason that people don't want to talk about it is because in 2021, you won 13 games. In 2022, I believe you won 8, right? So, I say all that to say this, Drew. Is he going to win 13 wins this year? No. Do you feel comfortable saying he'll win 13 wins next year? I don't. I hope it happens. I don't. What about 2025? Do you think there's a legitimate chance he wins 13 wins? Better than the previous 2, right? So to sit here and say he's a 13-win coach, that was me 2 years ago. We see what LaFleur has been without Aaron Rodgers right now. So with that being said, I hope he rises to the occasion. I hope they do it. But you can't sit here and say this is his record when it's obvious everything shifted and now we're in his offense and they're struggling this year. And then all of a sudden, it's okay. You can't continue to acknowledge those pelts on the wall, in my opinion. What's his record without Rodgers? That's the real question, right? And you're seeing it this year. He's 3-5. Obviously, they lost one during the COVID toe year, right? So that's 3-6. I don't know is the exact record, but I imagine it's somewhere in that ballpark. So let me ask you this: are you cool with, let's just double those numbers and say, 6-12, right? Are you cool with a 6-12 coach year in and year out? Because right now that's what LaFleur is without Rodgers, without Devontae Adams. And it may seem unfair, but like Tim said, man, it's the NFL. It stands for not for long when you perform like that, I like LaFleur so much. I love how he interacts. I think he's a guy that cares. I think he works his absolute tail off, but you got to perform. You got to, there's going to be another great coach that's going to get hired, probably a couple of them this coming year. There'll be some bad ones too, way more bad than good. You don't want to be on the outside looking in. It's kind of like the quarterback situation too. If by the end of the year, we don't know 100% certainty that Jordan Love is the franchise quarterback that we hoped he was when we drafted him and ticked Rodgers off, then you can't go another year and just go, well, let's give it one more shot, especially if there's a quarterback in the draft that falls to you that has a much higher grade than you had on him. Now, they may not have these quarterbacks graded out near as high, Tim, right? No one knows the grades that these teams have on them. That's why draft grades are just silly. It's stupid because, you got the Mel Kippers and all these experts immediately after the draft, they go, oh, I'll give him this grade. I'll give him that grade. So you're telling me you understand how good these players are better than Brian Gutekunst and his staff? Come on, dude. That's silly, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. If they've got a higher grade than they had on Jordan Love, they'll take a swing at quarterback if one's available. Now, will they fall in love with one if they end up in the top 5 and try to sell the farm, trade up, and nab them? It's possible. I don't think that's Goody's style. That was another thing that was overblown too, Tim. People were like, well, you traded up to get Jordan Love. We gave up a 4th-round pick. Let's not pretend like we sold the farm to get Jordan Love. There were so many people that were defending Rodgers at the time, right? And they made it sound as if we sold the farm to take a shot on Love. I agreed with the move at the time. I just wish they would have let Rodgers know, because every other great quarterback, they all agree, yeah, you got to let your QB know, hey, look, if this guy falls, we may take him. Or even right before you put the pick in, give him a buzz and say, hey, Aaron, listen, here's the plan, dude. We've got an extremely high grade on this guy, just like we did you. And when we took you with Brett, we want him to sit behind you. This is your team till you want to retire. We want him to sit behind you and learn from the best. There's nothing wrong with handling it that way, rather than him sitting at home thinking you're going to take a receiver and all of a sudden, well, they just drafted my replacement. But I don't know if all that makes sense or not, Tim. But what do you think about any of that? Did it provoke a thought?
No, I agree. I think, when you talk about these quarterbacks and being in the know with the organization, yeah, especially a quarterback that brought you a title, multiple MVPs, played at a high level throughout his career, upper echelon caliber quarterbacks. You talk about Peyton Mannings, you talk about Brady, you talk about Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, guys that belong in this kind of upper echelon category. Yeah, I believe that. I don't think that they should have input as far as, what the team is doing. That's where I draw the line. I don't think any player on that roster should be telling coaches or GMs, hey, I want this, I want that. Right. But I do agree with the sentiment that I think at the very least he earned the right to be in the know. And certainly before they picked up that phone, or they could have had the deal working already, in the process of making the move. And that could have been, like Aaron said, FaceTime me, or, whatever, hit me up on Instagram, whatever, send me a DM, and just kind of soften the blow so that I don't start thinking crazy thoughts. I mean, I agree with that. I think Aaron earned that. But yeah, I definitely don't think that, we hear about Peyton firing receivers and all of this. So it's like, whatever works in your organization. But, I think, at 1265, we have a way of doing things here that's a little unique, and always has been. But I agree, man. I think they dropped the ball on that. They could have at least gave him a heads up, just so he was in the know. Because, history proved that's exactly what they did, right? I mean, Jordan sat behind Aaron for multiple seasons. And I think it might have been smoother if, Aaron knew that was the plan going in. But hey, here we are, right? Jay loves QB1, and it's this is what we got to do.
Absolutely, man. And let's hope it pans out, because, dude, I'm telling you, if you remove the on-field play, the inaccuracy and everything, right, that the shortcomings, he's done some great things too. If you just talk about the person he is, the leader he is, that's the guy you want leading your organization. I mean, I love everything about Jordan. I really do. Yep. It's just, you also got to be realistic. Like, hey, look, the accuracy has got to improve. There was many people that actually on the QB school yesterday with JT O'Sullivan, he was talking about that Dontavian Wicks throw, right, and the fumble, and everybody was all over Dontavian Wicks, and immediately one half of the fan base comes out and says, this is what we're talking about. Jordan has nothing to work with, But like JT O'Sullivan pointed out, bro, that was a horrible pass. The reason he fumbled is the placement of the ball. He had to pick it up off the ground, basically, right, turn around, then try to maintain possession, also try to get the first down. Those little things matter. That's the difference between, a college throw and a pro throw, right? The NFL, you got to make that throw. Nick McSwain in the chat said, people say Packers aren't doing anything well, but don't they have the highest point total in the second half? If they could just translate that to the first half, we'd be golden, LOL. Nick, there's so much truth in that, man. And again, my opinion of that, and I've said it over and over, I think some people don't want to hear it. The reason we're doing so well in the second half is because you're down and you're forced to spread things out. Coach LaFleur absolutely loves these condensed sets, right? The nasty splits, all that stuff we talk about on Chalk Talk. And Is it effective? Yeah, it's effective to a certain extent. But when other coaches are scheming against you and they're watching the tape and going, okay, we know here's the 1, 2, maybe 3 options that they have out of this specific set, and you're able to tighten everything up and condense it, more things go wrong for the offense than right in those situations. That's just my opinion. I don't know if you guys remember listening to the Play Callers, right? The podcast that dropped this last summer, but they were trying to give you a visualization of how Kyle Shanahan comes up with play calls, and he would use multiple colors of dry erase, basically, right, or a Sharpie, whatever you want to call it. And on his whiteboard, he would go to the whiteboard, and in black he would draw up a play, okay, and then on the opposite side in black he would draw up what defense would stop that play for him, right? So using that same formation in a blue pen, or a blue marker, he would draw up, okay, how could we beat that out of the same set with as much of the same play as possible? Well, if we added in a choice here, right, where if he reads that the safety is playing too high, then he turns that sit, or he turns that corner route into a dig, we beat it there. So now in blue, you have the answer against cover 2, right? So then he would draw in the same color, in that same color, what would beat that? Okay, well, if you played with a cover 2 and you didn't play Tampa this time and you had a hook zone in the middle, that would take the dig away. That shuts down everything on the play. Then in green, he would get another marker and say, okay, how can we beat that defense? And that's how he designs his plays. There's so many different levels to it in that regard. And it truly is the definition of the illusion of complexity. It's simplicity with the illusion of complexity, right? And this is Bill Walsh 101. It's exactly what they talk about in the book, The Score Takes Care of Itself, is he tries to give multiple looks, the same exact route concepts, the same exact end result, because all it is you're attacking space. The game of football is you're attacking space, you're defending space. So when you can figure out how to put a little window dressing out there and attack a defense with multiple looks, it causes them to overthink things as well, right? And you might run that dig 3 yards deeper than you did, on another call, right? And that's where the choice aspect comes in. And that's why you got to be careful when you're watching the tape and dissecting the tape like me, and also when you're just trying to understand the offense at a different level. You've got to always throw in the caveat and try not to be the smartest person in the room. You always got to think, okay, this coaching staff, we don't know exactly what they're telling their players. We don't know exactly how they're looking to attack this defense, right? So the choice routes have taken over the game. There's no doubt about that. It's what Kansas City is the best at it. There's no doubt. Let's see here. What else we got here? Great point. Red Mo in the chat, Tim, says Kenny Pickett's a fourth quarter quarterback. Packers are a back half team. Has the makings of a slow burn, fourth quarter shootout type of game. I completely agree. I think that's probably what we're going to see. I think it'll be low scoring. Matter of fact, Tim, I'll pull this up to go along with that real quick. If we look at some of the numbers that we were breaking down earlier in the week, offensive points per game, right? You see Green Bay. I may have to pop this off here. I'll come back to your comment in a minute. Actually, thank you so much, Redmo. Appreciate the comment there, buddy. I'm going to mark it so I don't lose place in the chat here. All right, so Green Bay in points per game offensively is 20th, right? Notice you don't see Pittsburgh there. They actually are scoring less points than the Packers offensively per game, right? And you guys are going to see this and go, why does everyone think we're just going to get torched by the Steelers? Offense points per play, Green Bay 16th. Notice you don't see Pittsburgh on the list, right? They're lower than Green Bay. Offensive yards per play, Green Bay's 21st. Look in there, you don't see Pittsburgh, right? It just goes to show you how bad their offense has been. Now, when you go to defensive points per game, all right, Green Bay is 10th at 19.9. I'm going to say it again. In opponent points per game that you're allowing, okay, we are allowing the 10th least amount in the entire National Football League. Pittsburgh got an awesome defense, don't they? They're 13th at 20.4, okay? Defensive points per play, Green Bay is 8th at 0.303. Pittsburgh is 7th at 0.299. So you're starting to see how they kind of are very similar in that regard. Opponent yards per play, Green Bay is 6th. Pittsburgh isn't in the top 10. So what it tells you is that we are allowing less yards per play than the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is. Okay. Now you've got to throw in the caveat, who have they played? Who have we played? Right. And when you look at the strength of schedule, it does show that the Packers have played a soft schedule outside of Detroit. Many people don't want to mention that we did play Detroit, which is one of the best offenses in the league. But Tim, with all that being said, and like I said, with our buddy here in the chat, where's he at? Let's see, Red Mo with his comment about Kenny Pickett being a fourth quarter quarterback. Say that 3 times fast. The Packers are a back half team, has the makings of a slow burn fourth quarter shootout. What do you think, man?
I think he's spot on. I think this could be one of those games. Last team to score is going to win the game, or last team with the ball is going to win the game. I'm excited. I'm a defensive football connoisseur, so we're going to see 2 defenses going hard against struggling opposing offenses. I will tell you that coming off the Rams game, I think offensively we're feeling a little better about ourselves. So we got a little bit of steam going into this road game. But yeah, I think if we get the type of defensive game I think we're going to get from our guys, it's going to be a close game. And it's going to come down to, can we do the small things? Can we extend drives? Can we not have stupid penalties in crunch time on 3rd and 2? Things like that. Because really, this Packers team, man, if we took away, all the times that they, shot themselves in the foot, we'd be looking at a totally different record, in my opinion, right now. So if we can eliminate some of these mistakes and just play good, solid football, I think we can come out with a win, albeit a close game. I definitely think it'll be less than a touchdown, for sure. I'm like you. I don't like score predictions, but yeah, my gut was telling me, like you were saying, like a 17-14 kind of deal, maybe a 20-17, something like that. So we'll see, but I think it's gonna be a slow burn. Now, of course, watch us all be completely wrong, and these these 2 teams get in a shootout, and they put 100 points on the board. But right. I don't know, but I think it's gonna be a close game.
Yeah, no doubt. Dr. Mikrob in the chat said, I think I said this last time, but Rodgers even said he'd check out of 60% of the calls or pretend to not hear it in his helmet. I know he would play pranks on LaFleur, acting like he couldn't hear in the helmet and watch him lose his mind. But then Dr. Mikrob says that Musgrave TD, though, smiley face. Bro, that Musgrave TD, hands down, my favorite play of the year so far. And I've talked about it. There may be people in here that didn't hear me talk about it, but I doubt it because I have just rant and raved over it this entire week. There's just so much to it. It was so multifaceted. Again, it was a play they called Hollywood. That's what the play call was Hollywood, and everybody knew what it was. 21 personnel, right? What does that do? It triggers a 34 base for the defense. Then you come out and you flex the T, which was Aaron Jones, into the slot. That forces the coverage to tip their hand a bit and also cover that slot. So you're displacing them to your right, their left a little bit, right? Got to treat Aaron Jones as a receiver. Then they use T-orbit motion, right? What does that do? T-orbit motion, you're gonna now motion Aaron Jones, who's the T in the slot, in an orbit motion, which goes behind the quarterback. Well, now they've got to adjust to that. That forces a late shift from the defense. Then you've got the double pulling guards. As soon as the second the ball is snapped, you got linebackers reading the offensive line for keys. Is it a running play? Notice early in the game, they did something similar. They came out in the pony package, which was essentially the same personnel, exactly the same personnel, but they had double sidecar. This time they just flexed the T. But when they used that motion of Aaron Jones out to the same area out of the pony package, they handed off inside zone to AJ. So you had that on film already, right? So on this play, you have the double pulling guards, so they're trying to read the offensive line. Is it that inside zone run again? No, it's not. Oh, the guards are pulling. The backer on one side thinks, okay, they're running to my side because the guard's pulling out here. He shifts that way. The backer on the other side, or even the safety, got eyes in the backfield. The other guard goes in the opposite direction. What's that do? Completely opens up the middle of the field. And then, of course, you had the X fade. He had an X fade tied in, which I think was Dobbs on the left. That X fade holds the free safety at home because he had some kind of a bracket coverage, whether it was cover 2-man or just cover 1. And he knew, hey, look, we want to take away Dobbs. They did shadow Dobbs quite a bit in that game. I wouldn't necessarily call it 100% bracket coverage, but they were definitely putting extra attention to him. That holds the free safety deep down the sideline. then Musgrave's timing on the leak was absolutely phenomenal. Imagine you're the backer on that side, and you could see it. I think it was number 59 or number 54. You could see him looking in the backfield, Tim, and you see the guard pull. He starts to take a step, and then you see Musgrave lock up and run block. It looks like they're either going to run block or help with that lead swing. He locks up. Now the backer commits. He thinks, oh, the tight end ain't doing anything. I got to attack that swing. That's what they're trying to do here. Yep. Sells it. I'm telling you, like a used car salesman, bro. Leaks out to the seam. Beautiful play call. And then on top of that, Jordan Love with the double swing fake. I mean, there was multifacets there. You got 21 personnel. You flex the T. You use T-orbit motion. You had 2 pulling guards that were just a complete decoy. You had an X-fade isolating the middle of the field, taking the free safety with you. You have Musgrave, great timing on the leak, deceptive there, run blocking, leak out to the seam, and then a double swing fake. It gives you options too. A lot of people didn't see that. I almost wonder if there's some kind of check within that play post-snap where he can actually hit Aaron Jones on that play, because there were no offensive linemen downfield. It wouldn't have been a penalty for ineligible because the guards were kind of pulling on the lead swing. Some people were calling it a screen. If it was a screen, they would be trying to get out front. You notice the guards were just pulling out. So I think there might be a lead swing tied in there. But what did you think about that play, man? I mean, we're almost a week removed from it, and I'm still over here slobbering over it.
What's so exciting to me is I said this about a month ago. I felt that we've been running 12 personnel a lot, a little bit too much. And I had made a kind of a joke about I'd love to see some 21 personnel. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the last 2 weeks we've seen more 21 personnel peppered into this offense. And I think what we saw in this play was the culmination of everything. I mean, you had a perfect play call. Situationally, you had a perfect play call. You had the right personnel, and then you had complete execution by everyone on the field. And it's, one of the few times that seemed to have happened for us this year, and it worked. So yeah, that play certainly burned in my mind. The deception built into that play just to throw that defense off. And then, Jordan Love's sealing the deal. If he doesn't run those lookoffs like that the right way, that whole play is busted. Like that was the cherry on top is him. You talked about Jones too, selling, Jones and Dillon selling the run action, and, Jordan finishing that play and then making a good throw in time, in rhythm, on target ish. And we get a touchdown. The only thing we missed was Luke Musgrave's inaugural Lambeau leap. But, hey, we'll get another one. We'll get him back. Yeah,
no doubt. George Klein in the chat said, who do you guys like more, Wicks or Heath? I know for me, hands down, it's Wicks, man. I'm so excited about Tay Wicks. He's just a route running machine. We actually broke it down on Chalk Talk. There was one play where he did a little extra double move at the end, or at the top of the route to run the out, and it was almost like a little mini cell route too. It was kind of a comeback, but with an out tied in. And sure enough, Jordan hit him absolutely perfect on the sideline. Who's your pick there, though, Tim? You like Wicks or Heath better?
I think about camp, and those two were on my list along with Bo Melton. Unfortunately, Bo Melton had some injuries and kind of faded into obscurity towards the end of camp. But Malik Heath and Tay Wicks were two guys a lot of us were looking at, and I like them both. I really do. But I got to give the edge to Tay Wicks, and it's another one of these rookies that doesn't seem to be playing like a rookie. Yeah. Sharp routes, crisp routes, good hands. He's got a bright future. I don't really see a ceiling with him. And honestly, don't write Malik Heath off yet either. There's a lot of things that can happen as this season progresses, and then we head into next year. We don't know what's going to happen with personnel, but Malik Heath is a guy that I think is going to be around for a while, kind of holding up the top end of the bottom end of the depth chart in that receiver room. So, I don't want to write Heath off. He had that opportunity Sunday, had a drop on a low ball. It happens. Right. I'm sure it won't be the last we see of him. And it was kind of nice that they did kind of sprinkle him in there, give him a chance to get some action. So, but the better that Tay Wicks continues to play, the less likely Malik Heath is going to see the field. But man, do we have a weapon there? And, I get really excited when I see Wicks and Reed on the field at the same time, because I put myself, in the shoes of a guy in the secondary, and I'm looking at those two guys. And then, oh, by the way, there's this Romeo Dobbs dude out on the boundary. it creates problems for these defenses. And, guys like Reed and Wicks playing like, third and fourth year veterans in their rookie year certainly helps. So, I think Wicks has got a bright future, man. That's my pick for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Drew in the chat says, I just think when you clean house, a guy deserves more than a year to build up the new team. Yeah, I've said it all year long, Drew. It's unfair for LaFleur. There's no doubt, man. It's kind of like he was he was kind of sent out there with very little ammunition to take on an army, right? But yeah, with that being said, you can't come out and bomb out with 3 wins, right? That's you're going to have to win. To me, the closer you get to 6, the better I feel about it. But the other thing,
scrappy, right? You don't have a lot of ammo. You got to get scrappy. You got to fight a little hand to hand. You got to get gritty. Got to do what you can to just win a game, right?
Yeah, and when you say scrappy, the first thing that comes to mind for me is a little 21T flex, double swing fake, league, right?
Right. So, how's that for creative, right?
Exactly. So yeah, again, Drew, like I said, man, it's one of those things that coming into the season, it was like, man, I hope they had a conversation behind the scenes where Goody and Murphy and LaFleur sat down and said, listen, guys, it's going to be a rough year. Okay. We got the youngest team in the league. This is a 2-year project. Everybody's safe. All right. Let's get this thing built the right way. Let's hope that was the conversation, because if the conversation was just, I think this team's better than it was last year, LaFleur's going in. No wonder he's so angry on the sideline. Right. But
right.
Let's hope he does make it though, for sure. All right, let's see here. George in the chat says, really feel like Wicks will be an all-pro one day. I can see it. I'll tell you this. I challenge everybody to do this. There's plenty of tape out there. If you've got Game Pass, you probably got all the tape. Go back and watch Davante Adams his rookie year, okay? I want you to key in on Davante Adams his rookie year and watch Tay Wicks this year. And tell me, of those 2 players, what you see on tape that rookie year, which one would you take over the other? I'm telling you, man, Tay Wicks looks better this year than Davante Adams' rookie year. Now, immediately people going, he's saying he's better than Ty. I'm not saying that. Tay had a drive in him to be the best receiver in the league. I say Tay. Davante had a drive in him to be the best receiver in the league. He absolutely mastered his craft. He worked through the drops, all those things, right? The question is, does Dontavian Wicks have that same drive, right? But just from a rookie standpoint and what they came in with, Tay's a little bit ahead of him. But, man, Davante Adams is special, Tim. That dude, he was going to work his guts out, man.
The only thing is, too, is you often see this, too, though. You can see guys come in as a rookie and have a phenomenal rookie season, and then that's it. There's nowhere but down from them. And then you compare that to a guy like Tay Adams, who struggled early and stayed with it and just year after year got better and better to the point now where, he is that dude. So I'm not saying that's going to happen with Wicks. And I do see that same dedication to the game with him. Tay Wicks is, his head is in the game. A lot of times with the younger players, sometimes you gotta try and get their attention and get that focus built up. But he's not one of those guys. Just like Jaden Reed, there's a lot of rookies on this team that are playing like experienced pros, and that's what you want to see. I'm going to look at Wicks' development and see, based on the type of rookie year he had, let's see what year 2 looks like. Are you continuing your ascent, or are you going to plateau and just be like, hey, this is who I am? We've seen that time and time again, especially with high draft picks, first and second round draft picks that make a big splash in the league, and then they're nowhere to be found a couple years into their career. And, they become, journeyman type of players who just kind of 1-year deals and float around the league. So
yeah,
I think Tay Wicks is, like I said, there is no ceiling. And I think he does. I think he's got that same commitment to his craft. Being wide receiver in the NFL is a pretty difficult position. Not quite as difficult as quarterback, but there's a lot in the mentals that goes into that game, and then the physical preparation alone. So, as long as he stays committed, I think he's going to continue to get better every year.
Yeah. Dr. Meekrop says, I agree, Drew. I'd give him another year, provided we see more improvement the rest of the season. And Carly Ray said, good point, Drew. But just like the draft players that aren't working out, worst thing is a double down on a system that's not working. LaFleur needs to show he can adapt. And Carly Ray, that's what I've seen too. Like I said, It was about week 4 that we started to adjust that running game, and you could see he toned back the sifts, the double pulling guards, all those things, and got back to zone and duo, and just kind of keeping things simple, right? So I think we have seen some of that adaptation, and I think that, if we build off of what happened against the Rams, the sky's the limit. Maybe you can start working some of those other looks back in. You guys remember the first 2 weeks of the season? Nobody's talking about this.
Yeah.
When we were screaming, I was screaming at the top of my lungs that, guys, we got to tone this back. This is what Rodgers was talking about. You need to simplify things. You remember the speed options where they're running the option play and getting Aaron Jones absolutely destroyed? Like, it bothers me because you could tell they spent all summer going, this is going to be a part of our offense. This is going to work. And it never worked one time. About got your running back killed. And it's like, okay, that part of LaFleur kind of has me going. And I was excited about seeing a little option play. But when they ran the triple option, guys, there's a reason that college runs triple option and the pros don't. It does not work in the pro. Speed option, I get it, but you got to have the hat count. They were trying to force a square peg in a round hole with a negative hat count, thinking you could run the option. When you've got a +1 hat count from the defense's perspective and you try to run a speed option off the side, it's real simple. I'm taking the running back, you get the quarterback. It's one-on-one. In some cases, a +1 with a guy behind you. You can't go in just assuming, okay, a speed option will work. This isn't NCAA football on PlayStation, right? You can't just key that up 90% of the time and it work.
I like when you keep it simple like that, you can almost lull a defense into a sense of complacency. And I think we saw that with the Rams. We were running a lot of simple sets. No, nothing spectacular with our run game, right? We didn't have huge yards per carry or chunk runs, but we methodically ran our offense, and then we see the plays like the one to Musgrave, right? Or we see these calls where all of a sudden that complexity or the illusion of it gets peppered in, and then the defense is like, oh, what the hell? What do we do now? Because you were expecting an inside zone run because it's been happening to you all day long. And then all of a sudden it gets switched up. I think early in the season, we saw LaFleur just like firing every rocket he had at his disposal and kind of just, there was no deception. The defenses were just keying into what we were doing. Now it's like you kind of play this game, where you're going to keep it simple and have an effective offense that can sustain these drives. And then, that Musgrave play is a great example, man. Perfect play call, perfect time for that play call, which was set up by the previous runs in the previous series. That's why that play worked.
Yep, no doubt. George in the chat, George Klein says, talk about Jones lifting Wicks's head up after the fumble. You really got to love that, man. Did you see that, Tim?
Yeah. And then the other thing I saw too, which not a lot of people talk about, is, Jones was first over to him there and kind of picked him up right away, probably talking him up. And then when they went to the bench, Romeo Doubs came over, and you had Doubs on the right side and had Jones on the left side, and both of them had their arm around Wicks. Both of them were talking to him. So what I got from that was, there's Aaron Jones being a leader, being this guy that he is. We all know who Aaron Jones is in Titletown. And then you just instantly see it inspire the leadership in Romeo Doubs. It's almost like you want a great example of leading by example. There it is right there. Romeo sees that and goes, hey, that's my dude. I was a rookie last year. I remember what it was like when I had drops and Aaron Jones came over to me and helped me keep my head in the game. Let me go do that for my teammate right now. So that was, I thought that was telling, man. And it shows the connection these guys have in this locker room. We talk about guys playing for each other. And, if you're teetering on obscurity and possibly not making the playoffs and, this kind of thing, then you got to find something to play for, and you can always play for each other, man.
Definitely. Here's that clip. I don't want to go full screen. I don't want to get hit with a copyright or anything, but it's a real quick 7-second clip you'll see right here. He's got his head down, walking to the sideline. Watch Aaron Jones. I love how he looks him right in the eye too, Tim. He's just like, listen, dude, you pick your damn head up, bro. You pick your head up. You're good. Little pat, let's go, dude. Come on, man. That's the type of stuff that makes me just fall in love with football, man. I love it. A group of guys, a group of people, guys, women, whatever, coming together and accomplishing something together, removing all ego, picking each other up, man. That's what this country needs more of. There's no doubt about it.
Amen.
Carly Ray in the chat said, Clayton, why do you think he likes those nasty sets? What what advantage do they offer over spread formations? The answer is real simple, Carly. The league is very cyclical. You talk about it. You've read about it, and I'm sure I've heard you mention it from time to time. We just come out of an era of football. You know, in the 90s, it was run heavy. It was I formation, all those things, right? Pounding the rock, play action off of it, all those things. It's very cyclical. That was what was big in the 90s. As you get in the early 2000s, you see the spread start to take over. It took over college, then it took over the NFL, West Coast spread. That is what Mike McCarthy ran, right? Spreading everything out, wide splits. Some people go to the extreme of Baylor splits where they're literally right on the sideline, but for the most part, people will play a normal wide split, right? So you come out of this era with that. Defenses had to adjust from going from a run heavy I formation, top set, to now you've got these spread formations. The defense caught on and they started to shut it down. It's why Mike McCarthy's offense went stale when it did, because defenses caught on. So what happened is this McVay style, they condensed everything. So these defenses are used to playing with outside technique with specific looks. They're preparing for a spread look. Now you come with a condensed look, right? And what it does is now it forces the defense. It takes a little while. Those defensive coordinators, they've got egos too, right? They're like, this is what works. I know it works. It's worked the last 10 years. We're going to continue to do this. Well, when you've got those wider looks, right, and you're kind of playing everything outside in from a defensive standpoint, having to protect against the bomb, because in every single play within a West Coast offense, especially the spread offense where you got most of the time 5 targets going out in the pass concept, you're going to attack deep most of the time on both sides of the field, and then have underneath options as well. So to answer your question, I'm trying not to go too nerdy here and make it too long. You come out of an era where they're defending against those spread looks, and you attack with the condense. You're now able to run the ball inside. When they start to close up, you've got outside zone. Now you've got boot action flow off of it. You can play action boot in the opposite direction. You're manipulating the defense entirely. You throw in the strike concept where you'll throw in a deep corner with a crosser underneath. This defense didn't know what to do. Well, guess what's happened now? Defenses have caught on to that. So they're having to get more and more creative. The play that we just talked about that I geeked out over, the Musgrave touchdown, the 49ers actually ran. We stole it from the 49ers, okay? So, it's a copycat league. People steal from us, we steal from them. That's just the way the league works. But to answer your question, he likes those nasty sets because that's what they had success with while defenses were trying to adjust to the wide zone boot as well as the nasty splits. Now the defenses have caught on. You've got to be willing to adapt. You've got to be. And you see that in the second half because the team's losing and they have to spread things out because now we got to move the ball quickly. That's just my opinion. I'm just a dumb redneck. That's kind of the way I see it. But I think that's the best way I know to answer that, though, Carly. Great question, though. Great question. Let's see what else we got here. We got to wrap this thing up. And I did not expect there to be this many people in here. This is absolutely awesome. We're definitely going to be doing some more morning shows for sure. I just hate leaving people's comments behind, guys. Please don't take offense to it. I wish I could get to them all. But you guys have absolutely lit it up. The question I just answered was probably 20 minutes ago when it was asked, Tim. So it's a good problem to have at the same time. Let's just wrap up with a couple more here, and I'll get your parting thoughts, Tim. I appreciate you jumping on, man. This was a pleasant surprise for sure. Omar in the chat said, this team lived and died with Jones. Why he needs 25 carries. He's the best player on offense and has been for the past few years. Yeah, and a lot of people are dogging him for the PFF grade. The reason he's on the field, you're drawing attention to him, right? You're trying to run the ball. I still think he was effective. I know the PFF grade was low, mainly because the fumble. If you remove the fumble, he probably would have graded out close to 70 would be my guess. So the people who are acting as if all of a sudden he's hit the wall, it could be the wall, right? I'm not saying it isn't. But I just don't like people speaking in definitives like, hey, here's what's actually going on. Aaron Jones is washed up. Dude's playing banged up. It's important to get him those carries because he's a home run hitter. And if you've got him on the field, it's the same thing. You remember the Super Bowl where they were talking about Terrell Davis? And
Yep.
he had a migraine. He said, Coach, I can't see. And Mike Shanahan, Kyle's dad, said, listen, I don't need you. You don't need to see. We're not going to give you the ball. I just need you to be out there so they think we're giving it to you. And I believe that was the bootleg play where Elway gets helicoptered, right? Am I thinking right?
Yep. And you know what? That's a great point because Aaron Jones, you can say what you want, but we all know at any moment that you could get a 58-yard run up the gut and go, and it's going to the house on any one of these little condensed set, spread set, whatever. could be a little A-gap run, and all of a sudden he slips a defender and finds a seam and he's gone. We've seen that time and time again. We haven't seen it recently, and you're right. The guy's, he's getting older. He's got a hamstring issue. It's called football. Things happen. Nobody plays in the NFL and doesn't have issues physically. It doesn't happen. So Jonesy is that threat, and I think it's telling. You're right. Omer's right. We have to give him consistent touches and carries so that these defenses have to account for him. And as we saw, when a defense has to account for 33 out there, all of a sudden we see other things open up.
Yeah.
So.
No doubt. No doubt. George Klein with the chat said, I really believe part of Love's inaccuracy is from not really playing since college. He'll catch fire soon. And that's a good point. He's been throwing this entire time. He's been working with a pro coaching staff, but I think there is a lot to that too, man. He's just been kind of in the bullpen warming up the whole time, right? So I hope he fixes it. Like I said, man, I love him as a leader. I think he's got the right attitude. I think he's someone that the team will follow. You can tell they want to perform for him too, Tim. There's no doubt.
And another point about Jordan Love too is that you spoke a little bit about him personally as a person. Jordan is a guy who's a very young man and has been through a lot of adversity in his life. Going back to childhood and through high school and college, personally and professionally. You look at what he had to deal with in college, losing his staff and the shakeups that happened. I believe that was going into his last year. And then you see him come to the NFL and he loses his, first opportunity out of preseason in the NFL where you can get some of those early reps. And we didn't have it. We had the COVID shortened preseason. So there could be some truth to that. It's been a long time coming. And I think, we're only halfway through this year. Yeah, I fully expect him to get hotter and hotter as we continue to go through this season. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. All right, let's do it. Let's wrap this thing up, man. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us. You guys are awesome. This is a lot of fun. I think this is going to be good. My schedule should be freed up to do quite a few of these. I can't commit to every day, but you'll get a lot of these starting in the month of November. Pretty much every year. I plan on this. This is looking like a long-term thing for me now, which is exciting. But it's a lot of work, but it's fun. It's a blast, and really appreciate everybody hanging out with us in the chat. We're definitely going to be back for Packers Total Access Live tonight. Probably will be 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern. So be on the lookout for that link to drop. But I can't thank you guys and gals enough for hanging out with us. You guys made this show, and I'm looking forward to doing many more. I want to give a special shout-out to George Klein. Thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. We appreciate you supporting the stream. Guys, don't forget, everybody who's a member of the YouTube group, the PTA Posse, you will be entered into the contest to win the autographed Dave Robinson jersey that we're going to be giving away during the post-game show immediately following Packers Steelers this Sunday. So, Tim, thank you so much for your time, man, being out there live at the stadium. Love to see that shot of the Lambeau statue, man. I swear I could sleep in the parking lot of that place. But, again, I appreciate you. And I know you being the smart guy that you are, you found a way to make it work, to help the wife out. You get out a little early and get out there and give us a little shot of Lambeau. But we appreciate
And you know what's so cool, Clayton?
What's that?
It's 9:00 my time, which means the pro shop just opened. So this is perfect timing. Might have to do a little shopping today.
Hey man, if you see anything in there that you think I might like, definitely shoot me a picture. Say, Clayton, what do you think about this? I'll make it worth your time. All right.
I got you, man. I'm gonna get one of them little scanners. I'll just scan everything.
Sounds good, dude. Sounds good. All right, man. Well, we appreciate everybody hanging out with us in the chat again. This is Good Morning Lambeau. We may do another one tomorrow morning. We'll definitely do a pregame show in the format of this right here for the Packers Steelers. But like I said, thank you all for your time. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.